The biggest talking point about the upcoming Like a Dragon game has of course been the poor casting choice of Yongyea, fake Kiryu? Whatever you want to call him, as well as his bad attempt at damage control. I could easily talk about how he's miscast, his hypocrisy, what scummy business decisions may have been behind it, with the current segregationalist trend surrounding modern voice acting, or make a few Soylent jokes. But half of that would be just repeating what many have already said. Not that I won't give a few of these some mention. Instead, I'd like to use this to take a look at the nature of English dubs, and are they even necessary at this point? This may seem like a different type of video than my standard, but it isn't too much in focus. A lot of my Dragon Ball analyses have the secondary point of drawing attention to misconceptions that have been birthed by dub changes or mistranslations, that have muddied perceptions of the franchise for many, and Dragon Ball's English dubs lead into journeying through the history of dubbed material. When looking back at dubbed anime that led to a boom in the late 90s and early 2000s, with Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And several others, it was a necessity at the time. As anime with a younger target audience aired on daytime television, subtitling wouldn't cut it in making the series popular in the West. The same goes back even further with the dubbing of martial arts films or Eastern television series, such as Sayuki, which has become better known in the West as Monkey. Though that era was primarily due to Asian media still finding their footing in the West, even later on, anime dubs still played a part in normalizing the medium for Western audience, when anime's place in the cultural zeitgeist was still very much a niche thing, or a typically geeky interest. It arguably wasn't until Attack on Titan in 2013, which gained enough of a following amongst the Western mainstream, that anime fully became something where trying to normalize it to a Western audience through a dub was less a necessity for all and a case-by-case situation, which is where the Like a Dragon or Yakuza series comes in. Anyone who's taken a look at the franchise will be aware that there hasn't been an English dub for the franchise since the first Yakuza game on the PS2, and after that the next one was Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, or Yakuza Like a Dragon for a main series release, in no small part due to the original Yakuza's dub being
"Kill this arrogant motherfucker."
a thing. It undeniably acts as an unintentional comedy through its attempt at having edgy dialogue, and a few stilted performances, making it a huge meme worth doing 10 years in the joint for.
10 years in the joint made you a—
Yes, we get the joke. But sticking with it would have ruined its perception in the West, much as what happened with several other series not properly localized. This proved to be a step in the right direction, with the franchise gaining a huge following through its own merits, and an additional boost in the last few years when Sega allowed the series to be brought to Xbox Game Pass, with none of them in the Kiryu saga containing an English dub. At that point, Yakuza 7's dub was little more than morbid curiosity, rather than something that attracted a wider audience, unlike the attempt with Yongyea's casting, which, whether you consider it to be for his YouTube following, or the current trend of having the voice actor vaguely match the character's ethnicity. You know, that one thing that doesn't matter whatsoever when you're using your voice to act, was certainly not for his voice fitting the character. These sort of idiotic attempts at political correctness also show another fault in modern dubs and localizations, by inserting socio-political talking points in no way part of the original. As old news as it is, the whole dragon-made patriarchy insertion is a clear example of what can happen if your localization is placed in the hands of those with an agenda towards a product, which tend to be easier to accomplish within an English dub. On top of problems in voice acting or tonal changes with this and any other product being brought into a foreign market, is the inevitable loss of context or removal of nuances, be it play on words not working in English or cultural context being watered down. A lot of dubbed media is doomed automatically. It's mainly because of this that I find it no coincidence coincidence that what I consider the best English dubs for anime and games tend to be for ones rooted in a Western setting, whereas dubbing a series with its setting and characters rooted in Japanese culture naturally means some terms and dialogue nuances will get watered down a bit, or not carried over. For instance, Yakuza 3's occasional use of English couldn't work with the same charm and distinctness in the dub, nor did this sub-story work in 7's dub. There's also the karaoke that was the main example of how bad Yongyea's Kiryu is, which shows an additional problem in casting anyone to localize this role, with the multi-talented vocal range it requires to not be an embarrassment. The cast of Yakuza 7 are for the most part fine singers, but it is far more of a rarity to find one capable of carrying the voice actor's story presence and singing voice in America than it is in Japan, where many seiyuu trained in a variety of vocal ranges for things like this. If singing lessons weren't possible for the dub due to time constraints, then they could have had a professional with a similar voice handle the song performances, as many musicals, both live action and animated, have done for decades. Leaving aside the increasingly obvious fact of an English dubbed Like a Dragon game being broken from its premise, it shows a high level of incompetence to not take the reasonable workaround and instead add autotune. In the case of the Ryuga Gotoku series at least, a dub was completely unnecessary for attracting an audience, and the Yongyea situation will stand as a testament to that, and how reductionist the idea of a foreign language series needing a dub is. For series that can benefit from being presented with English voices due to their settings or the talent involved, an English dub isn't inherently bad. For those where dubbing it will provide a by default watered down product that presents many parts not working in the manner the original language version did, though, the Yongyea situation will present itself as a strong case of just because you can dub a product doesn't mean you should. With all that, I'll bring this to a close and say that if there's any work in which you'd say an English dub improves the material rather than detracting from it, mention them in the comments. I'll also release another Like a Dragon video in the near future focused on Ishin, so if the franchise brought you here as a new viewer, be sure to subscribe for that, and I'll see you later.